Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Q&A with me and Matt. Matt should be joining me very shortly. I just wanted to start a little early. So ask your questions away. Ask away anything you want. You can ask your questions to either me or Matt or both of us or whatever. He'll be here shortly. And yeah. I got my yerba mate. And I will be doing an interview with Matt's friend, which is he's a Christian YouTuber, and that'll be shortly. That'll be like in 45 minutes. I have that scheduled as well. So, hey, somebody came. Allie, hey, what's up? What's up? Hi, Roen. Hi, Matt. I think I'll think of some questions. Please do so. Yes, we need your questions. If we don't have any questions, me and Matt we might just talk about how to survive the pandemic plague that's coming. There's a pandemic plague. I mean, it could come, the viral pandemic. So many scientists are predicting it. And so I'm going to maybe pick his brain on how to solve it. Because if anyone would know, Matt would know how to kill the pandemic plague, you know. And we were also going to talk about his treatment, his protocol for curing Lyme disease. I'm in the process of making a documentary on Lyme disease. And Matt's pretty much an expert in the field of Lyme disease and how to cure it. Well, I shouldn't say cure, treat it. A lot of people think you can't ever cure Lyme disease. Like they think it's rooted in your body forever. But Gabby says, I'm curious to know Matt's opinion on abortion. Well, he'll be here shortly, and yeah, I'm curious too. That'd be interesting to know. Let's see here. 2 viewers. Come on, people. We need some more questions. Ask him prepare for some questions for when Matt gets here. He'll be coming here shortly. He said he'd be here in like 10 minutes. And that was like 6 minutes ago, so he should be here pretty quickly. Yes. So let's see here. What can I talk about? All right, here's a question. Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare, says, if you want eternal life, scientists are working on repairing the damage that accumulates inside the body due to the metabolic processes that occur naturally. That's right. Scientists are working on it. There are a bunch of scientists trying to cure aging, figuring out how to cure aging. It's a very complicated process, you know. The body's so complex. So curing aging is going to be very hard work. But we got Sen's Foundation working on it. We got Aubrey de Grey. We got Elizabeth. We got lots of people. A lot of special people. Maria Kononenko working on curing aging. So many people. Allie says, does Raw Matt love Jews as much as you? We'll have to ask him that. I bet he does. I bet he does. He'll be here shortly. Yes. You know, as far as curing aging goes, yeah, we do. There are people trying to cure aging. Aubrey de Grey is the man. We should also be focusing on what we can do to just cure aging ourselves, as far as what's available right now. All the science, all the supplementation, okay, the diet, everything. We got to work on using what we have available to us right now, which is so much. So much is available. I mean, it's possible that what's available right now is enough to cure aging. It's possible totally that it's not enough, that we do need, we need that advanced science. That's why it's important that there's people like Aubrey de Grey working on it. But yes. Jordan Miller says, are you guys injecting young blood for longevity like they do in Silicon Valley? I'm not. We'll have to ask that to Matt. Maybe Matt's injecting young blood. I'm afraid of that, because there's the diseases in young blood, right? The young blood can be filled with diseases. But I heard they are doing that they are injecting young blood in Silicon Valley. There's a startup company, I guess, charging like tons of money. I think they might be charging like $2,000. This might be Matt right here. Oh wait, I can send him. Okay, I can send him the invite link to his email. Let's see here. He doesn't need to have Discord. Let's see. I can email the link. Oh, wait, I think he got it. Wait, you see the link? See the link? Okay, Matt should be here very, very shortly. He's in Discord. We're getting him in here. We're getting them, people. We're getting them. Just keep on your questions. Good. Thank you for asking the questions. Yes, we are. I'm going to be interviewing. Oh, here he is. Awesome. All right, you guys. So ask your questions for Matt. And then, yes, Standing for Truth is Matt's friend, whom I'll be interviewing after this Q&A here. But we got a question for you right here, Matt. Jordan Miller asks, do you see the chat? Can you see it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Jordan Miller's asking, is Matt in favor of the wall? There's a bunch of other questions that got asked to you as well. If you can scan through the questions, feel free to answer anything.
Wall. I'm in favor of the principle behind the wall, but frankly, I don't know if the wall is going to do what it's intended to do. It seems like a lot of money that could go to something else. I would rather a moat filled with alligators.
Oh, right. That could be effective.
Yeah, I'm not swimming across that.
Or drones, right? Drones.
Yeah, drones. Exactly.
Drones with mounted guns strapped to them, or tranquilizer guns. So we don't want to be killing anybody. So
turrets filled with tranquilizers.
Yeah. But I think that answers your question, Jordan. He is behind the principle of the wall. He wants, I guess, strong border security.
Would be good. You know what I mean? We have high amounts, and the amount of new disease coming across the border right now with measles and things like that. So a lot of people are getting sick with infectious disease that normally wouldn't be a problem, but it's really prevalent down in South America. So they're bringing problems with them, not just themselves, but they're actually bringing disease, and that's not good because, as you know, measles hasn't been a problem in the United States for a long time, and now it's making a resurgence. Kind of ridiculous to have to worry about trivial things like that,
right?
When we shouldn't have to.
Yes, I've heard that too. That they are bringing a lot of just weird diseases, right? Because they're a separate population will acquire different types of diseases that maybe the people over here, we're not immune to these diseases. We haven't developed the right antibodies or whatever, so we're extra susceptible. Isn't that how, like, the Indians, the Native Americans, they got a lot of diseases from us, right? We kind of killed them off.
Yes, they were really susceptible, for sure.
All right, here's another question. Question by Jordan Miller. Question for both of you. Would you be okay with a woman president? Political questions tonight. Would you be okay with a woman president, Matt? I'll let you answer first.
Me first. Really no difference, I guess. I mean, all politicians have about like that much trust with me in the first place. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like I guess I would go by what their purpose is behind them. I could really care less. I mean, in the animal kingdom, the animal females usually are the ones that do most of the political decision making anyway. So obviously they can be good rulers when it's just people don't have a tendency to listen to women very much. They don't have as much power when it comes to their people, their voices being heard as much. They're not as powerful as a dictator. Imagine Hillary telling the Middle East, you better stop doing that. They would just laugh. It's like, we spit on women where we live. You're not going to tell us what to do. So we got to really concern ourselves with what other countries think about a woman president more than we have to worry about what we think about them.
That's true. That is true. We don't want to be walked all over, right? If we have it's true. We have to have the strong negotiator. We have to have a strong person who, I guess, can appear alpha, right? I think that was the appeal to Trump, that he would be this alpha guy that other countries would respect in negotiations, that he wouldn't be this pushover type of person.
Right. There's more questions already. Look at that.
Oh, there's a bunch of questions. Oh, so somebody was asking earlier about they want to know if we're injecting young blood for longevity like they're doing in Silicon Valley. What would you injecting young blood, Matt, in secret?
Oh, I know that my blood is clean, so that's the difference. What happens is the senescence and the acrylamides and the things that build up in our cells that are usually very toxic, me and you have a tendency to want to fight that buildup through methylation and detoxification, and we actually push the debris out. So when we look at our blood through a microscope, I can see the damage that's built up from these things. So rather than having to inject clean blood, I keep mine clean naturally. Our cells have a biological ability to remain really clean. But what happens is when little bits of debris and toxins build up in the blood, they go through mitosis and apoptosis, and they usually clone themselves with degenerative problems, and it compounds. That's why deleterious mutations build up generation to generation and throughout a lifetime. That's why women actually don't get pregnant, or they recommend not after the age of 40 because of these mutation buildups. So we have to really be cautious on keeping our blood clean. And for the average person, they probably do need something like that. They need the next level. But for us,
have you heard that there's actually a company in Silicon Valley that is actually offering young blood plasma injections, and they're charging like $8,000 for a treatment or something just ridiculous. But what is it about young blood? There's got to be something else in young blood that's keeping them young.
Well, there's high amounts of CoQ10 and ATP. So the cellular generation rates are very high, and they really do a really good job on producing albumin, which is a super transporter in the human blood. So you've got a lot of energy, you feel good. They have a higher uptake of minerals usually, and they don't have iron load. So what happens is iron builds up, and that's really hard for the body to get rid of. Young blood doesn't really have that problem yet. So there's a lot of factors actually.
Yeah, and there's this process called parabiosis, right, where they hook up the blood, they've done this with mice, where they hooked up the young mice to the old mouse, and then they're circulating the blood, and it rejuvenates the old mouse. So it's definitely a real thing, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, so there's some more questions here. Somebody's Southpaws asks, did Matt watch your debate with Pastor Anderson? Did you watch that, Matt?
That's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit old.
That's a bit old. I do, but it's vaguely in my memory. I remember you were atheist at that time, hardcore. He was debating you on that.
It'd be interesting to debate him again now that I'm not an atheist anymore.
It would. It'd be interesting for sure.
I need a part 2 debate with with Pastor Anderson. What are your general thoughts on Pastor Anderson? Have you watched much of his sermons or his
Actually, I
doctrines?
can't say that I have. No, I try to not really listen to people, and the reason why is because when I'm listening to other people's systems, I have a tendency to go, oh well, I incorporate that as part of mine rather than my own perception and being able to mold. And then people go, well, you're just plagiarizing. So I really don't listen to a lot of these. I don't even really listen to Ken Hovind, these people that are even in my little circle, because I have a tendency to go, well, I don't want to say something that they said, and then they're just assuming me for plagiarizing. So I just kind of stick to my own little unique niche. You know what I mean? Like when I study, I look at my own blood and I figure everything out nutritionally myself. Somebody said something about IQ up there.
Allie, yes. Oh, here's an I. Okay, yes. Allie asks, Roen, can you please make a presentation on IQ and how that relates to eternal life? Should I get my IQ tested? Also, do you guys know your personal IQ levels? That would be an interesting presentation, the whole IQ debate and what that means as far as, I think IQ can definitely be an advantage for people. I think it will, in many cases, help them eternal life because they might be making smarter decisions with, a higher IQ. But there also, I'll say that I think that there's many more factors to a person's intelligence that IQ doesn't even talk about, but there's more important things than IQ. I'll say that. I think I've made videos about IQ before. What's your take on IQ, Matt? Do you think it's very important? Have you gotten your IQ tested?
Yeah, I tested mine. It's 123, but IQ to me seems as though it's secondary to willpower. You can have all the intelligence in the world and know exactly what you need to do, but if you don't have the diligence and willpower to actually do what needs to be required to be done, then all of the intelligence in the world is trivial and useless. So therefore, you really have to be strong and willpower. You can know what to do on a simplistic level, and you can literally have somebody like me baby step you through what to do, and you just can memorize that and you're good to go. Intelligence. So go ahead, Roen. Go ahead.
Right. That's a good point, because we know there's people with very high IQ levels, but they have all kinds of addictions. They have all kinds of bad behaviors and vices, and they're not making the right choices for their eternal life. They're not. So really, there's a more important question, and that is, what's someone's ability to survive? Because that's the intelligence that matters at the end of the day. It's the intelligence that'll help you survive. And if you're not making the right choices, right, if you don't have the willpower, then your IQ is kind of worthless if you end up dead, right? So,
matter of fact, some of the smartest people on Earth, you can actually test that yourself based on deductive logic and statistical analysis. For example, you can say, okay, well, let's take Tesla, let's take Einstein, let's take Isaac Newton, let's take these people. These were geniuses, right? So now, what do they have in common? Well, they were all vegetarian, but okay, we'll take that out, and now we'll say, okay, how long did they live? Well, Isaac Newton died from mercury consumption because he thought he could make him immortal. He was looking for the elixir of life, and he consumed too much mercury, and he died at a very young age. Einstein died as well early. They didn't make it into very old age, so their intelligence itself didn't make them live longer. The choices that they were doing in life, matter of fact, Tesla only slept a few hours a night. Einstein would only sleep a few hours a night. They were like almost so smart, they were eccentric. They messed up on a lot of things. And there's a guy that's alive right now whose IQ is over 200, and he said, I only think that I'm smart enough to take these tests really good because I do things now that I know I probably even shouldn't do, and I know I should be doing these other things, but I can't do them. So his own intelligence gets in his way. So, you ever heard the term ignorance is bliss? I know a lot of people that are really low IQ, but they're super happy all the time because they're not burdened with the stress of having very high intelligence. So there's a good mix. I would just say, if you're considered a normal and average, and people aren't calling you stupid all the time, you're probably good to go. You worry about your willpower. That's where it's really at. That's how you're going to succeed.
And your morality, because that's a whole nother thing that the IQ doesn't factor in, because there's very high IQ people, but they're immoral, and so they're not good. They're not God-fearing. So you could be a high IQ person, but you don't even have the intelligence to recognize that fearing the hypothetical God, fearing that God might judge you, right? They're not even considering that. So there's a whole nother thing to intelligence, which is morality, and that I'd rather have a bunch of highly moral friends with very low IQ who are like God-fearing people rather than these high IQ people who they don't even fear God. And so, they might be immoral or whatever else.
Yeah, different priorities in different places.
Yeah. Okay. So good question, Allie. As far as I have not actually gotten my IQ tested. I don't even know what it is. It's probably, I don't feel like it's that high, but you know what I mean? Like I, the reason I would suspect it's not that high is, I think high IQ people generally they're better at being funny and better at being like comedians, right? I don't feel like I have a comedic ability, which might suggest that it's not the highest. What do you think?
I don't know, Rowan. You have a tendency to want to learn. That's what IQ is actually based on. It's your ability to learn new information. If I said, all right, right now, I'm going to teach you how to do something different. Let's say I want you to memorize the platinum-based element groups. So there's platinum, palladium, iridium, rhodium, zinc, vanadium, silver, and gold, and indium. You would be like, wow, that's a lot. But if you're interested in the subject, literally, I could do that 10 times and you'll have it down. You know, I mean, so your ability to learn has always been pretty good. So comedic relief, how much you swear, these things, I've heard both of those in the past. So I don't really know if there's validity to those arguments.
Oh, have you heard high IQ people swear a lot?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I didn't even know that. See, I don't swear at all. I never swear, ever. So, all right. Someone's asking about the snake diet, saying we should debunk the snake diet. Do you know what that is? The snake diet?
I have never even heard that one.
All right, I can fill you in on this. So the snake diet is this guy on YouTube, and he basically, the snakes don't eat very much. Like they go long periods in between meals, like very long periods. So that's the principle of the diet. It's long periods of fasting. This guy recommends like up to fasting like 3, 4, 5 days in a row. And then just eating large meals. And so it's basically based on intermittent fasting. But the thing with him is he recommends eating quite a lot of meat when he does eat. So, that's probably not the best. They're going to get a lot of iron, right? So that wouldn't be good. And he even I've even seen him eating pork. So that would be my debunking of his diet. I like the principle of not eating very much and fasting, but I think he's going way off the deep end with the eating the pork. Well, the
problem also stems from that he's assuming biological relation of comparative anatomy to snakes rather than human beings. Our digestional tract has about a 16-hour fluctuation between mouth and excretion. So anytime you really extend past those amount of hours, you've actually already tapped into autophagy. So your cells are already cleaned out to that point. So now when you've exceeded about the 98-hour period, you've actually gone beyond cellular respiration and the cells have already detoxed. So by the time you're actually putting something back in, remember the raw foods, the fruits and the berries, these are really high clathratives. So they are actually cleaning themselves. You put them in your body and they contain elements that are detoxifying. They clean your body for you. He's putting foods in that need his body to clean it now. You see the problem with that? He's putting in needs and things that the body has to go, uh-oh, I have to clean this debris out of me. So he's doing himself a disservice and probably why he needs to clean. And if you actually want to tap into these polyphasic eating windows, you're looking at about a 12-hour to 16 to 18 hours, depending on your metabolism. You can get away, if you have an extremely fast metabolism, you can get away with about a 12-hour fast. And that's not even very long. Literally, that's like sleeping and waiting and like eating from 12 to 12. That's a huge window, very easy for the average person to acquire all that they need in that window. Now, some people get much better with about a 16-hour window because they're allowing their cells to actually do the cleanup for them, as you know, from autophagy.
So, yes, autophagy. That's the benefits of the fasting, right? Autophagy.
Right. That's where that comes from.
Yeah, and so I've seen actually a video of this guy eating like raw pork. I mean, raw bacon. Like that's his meal. He just ate a meal of raw bacon. Like ridiculous. That's very dangerous. It might have been smoked or cured or something, but so maybe it wasn't 100% raw. But ew, it's so gross. But he's cool though. He actually was paying fat kids to lose weight. Like he was willing to pay them to, because that's what his whole thing is, helping people lose weight.
So it's not based on health. It's just based on weight loss.
Basically.
That's totally different. Of course it'll work then.
Yeah.
No, anything works when you're not eating.
Yeah, he basically just has people fast until they lose their weight. It's basic.
You can eat butter. You can eat bread. You can eat anything when you're fasting for 3 days and then eating a gigantic meal.
Exactly. That's the whole principle of it. All right. So what else in here? Any questions you want to answer? Let's see. Pre-trib says, I've got a question for Roen. Was Pastor Anderson nicer in person than the media would have made him believe? Yes, he was. Pastor Anderson is very nice. He was very nice to me. I always got the sense that he was a good person. That's why I reached out to him in the first place and just wanted to talk to him. Yeah, the media, slanders him, makes him look bad or whatever. They don't trust the media. What else here? Someone's talking about the liver and kidneys for filtering blood. Yes, liver and kidneys, super important organs. Super important. The kidneys, especially for longevity, right, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. The kidneys are what help people grow taller. In Chinese traditional medicine, it's called the fire organ. It's considered their most important. In America, it's the liver. The liver is the problem that people burden down mostly in America because of, number one, surgery, gallbladder removal, and then the liver takes everything. The liver does 500 different things. That's a lot.
Wow.
So when your liver gets impeded, by bile occlusion and overstressed and by high sugary foods, your liver now doesn't function very good. So problems will arise. See, in other cultures, though, the kidneys are the most important. When in Chinese, for example, they do lots of herbal teas. So they focus on the kidneys because they don't harm the liver like we do here. They have an entirely different set of problems. Like the top 3 things that kill people in India don't affect us here in the United States. And what affects us here doesn't bother them at all.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that black foods, I'm sure you've heard this, black foods specifically are like good for the kidneys in Chinese medicine. Is that right?
Yes, I've heard this.
That's why Romania is supposed to be so good for the kidneys. It's like a kidney food and so black, right?
Yeah, they have their colors that line up to different meridians and different healing regimens. They call them Shen tonics in Chinese traditional medicine as well. So like reishi mushroom, for example.
Jordan Miller's asking an interesting question. He says, I want to know if either of you would race mix. What do you think about race mixing, Matt?
Race mixing, genetic, like from a genetic standpoint, maybe you can elaborate. Like,
I guess they're probably talking about, race mixing sexually. Intermarrying and having sex with different races.
Right. There's no real problems considering 99.9% of people are all related anyway. So there genetically wouldn't be like a real issue with it. As far as I'm concerned, it would be really hard for us to find a genetic problem that can come from this. People are like mutts anyway. If you ever do 23andMe and test your genetics, you're going to realize how much of a mix you are. My genetics is like a mutt as well. I'm like 68% British. I did not see that coming. I have a mix of native from my grandfather, who was from Spain, a Mexican. So his family was from like Spain and Native American. So they mixed. My grandmother was Irish and German. My mom was adopted. So she was from the Middle East era. That's where the British came from. I know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So obviously mutts are what most people are today.
Yeah, I guess the biggest problem I could see from it is I've seen some videos where people are mixed race and they feel like I think there's statistics showing that they might be more likely to get depression, and they might be more bullied in school if they're so mixed that they can't really identify with one side or the other of their genetics. Yeah, I've seen people where they're kind of confused about their racial identity and they get bullied. So for that reason, I can see that maybe wouldn't be ideal. Because if you're thinking about the offspring, if you're thinking about their potential for happiness, if they're going to be more likely to become depressed, or if they're likely to become, bullied in school or whatever, I can see for that reason that maybe it wouldn't be something to. Plus, it's kind of cool, actually, to have a pure, like we breed dogs. It's kind of cool to have a purebred dog, like a purebred. So, then the same thing for humans. It's like if we can completely always race mix and mix our genes out, we all become mutts, and we lose the pureness, the purebred of the races, which is a cool thing as well to maintain.
Yeah, for sure. Genetic streamlines are what the Rothschilds and these people do to keep their bloodline pure. They marry their first cousin, and it's shown genetically that that's fine. So
Right. And I think Jews a lot of times intermarry, right? And
Right.
they marry other Jews to keep their own bloodline pure, which would make their, and then is it a coincidence that that they're like so high IQ, right? The Ashkenazi Jews have such high IQ. Maybe it's because they're just intermarrying with other Jews.
That's right. We have a really bad stigma of intermarriage because it was, not condoned, but that's marrying brother sister. That's where the problems arise.
Right. Exactly. So like what else here? What else do we got? Southpaw said, Rowan, if you're let me just start to the top here because we might have missed some things. People are asking you stuff early on when I started when you weren't here. Okay. Someone's asking your opinion on abortion.
Oh,
Matt.
wow. Mine?
Yeah, what's your opinion? I'm curious to know Matt's opinion on abortion. Gabby asks.
Yeah, I would say be careful with that one. You know what I mean? So many people want to adopt, and as so many people have the misconception that the world is completely overridden and burned with human beings, but the population they've shown statistically is not even close to how much we have to worry. It can max out at 15.6 billion without an actual problem. Mm-hmm. So, when you're just ridding people because you don't want the inconvenience, then we've gotten to the point where people are just kind of voting life away. They're just throwing it away because it's inconvenient for them because they don't want the responsibility, but they want to go out and party and get pregnant in the first place and then just go and get it taken care of. It's kind of irresponsible. That's all.
Have you heard this new abortion law they have in New York now? They're allowing abortion up to 9 months.
That's a long time.
So a 9-month-old
basically it's
pregnant.
alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And in Virginia now, they're even trying to push it where they can even infants, they can abort the baby even after the baby's born. They're trying to really push it to a crazy level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dang.
All right. So what other questions we got here? Allie asks, does Raw Matt love Jews as much as you? Do you love Jews, Matt?
They're an interesting people. They're pretty awesome, really. I wouldn't say like I say they get a horrible rap. They're horrible. They've been persecuted more than any other culture or race I've ever heard of in my entire life, and they never complain. That's incredible. Black people today hate other races, and because they were brought here as slaves, right? And it was even though it was black people that actually brought them here to sell them as slaves, they don't care about that. They they have animosity and hate. A lot of them. And Jewish people don't even care. They don't even care. They were been slaves in Egypt. They've been slaves by their own people. They've been slaves since the very beginning of time. And they don't seem to, the Germans killed them. There's still German Jews that still live there. You know what I mean? They don't hold like a resentment or animosity. It's quite interesting. So I think they were also considered God's chosen people in the very first time because of their ability to memorize. Because remember, they didn't really have to write anything down. They memorized scripture. They can memorize the entire Torah. That's incredible. That's probably why they were actually the chosen people. So they're a fascinating race of people, for sure.
Heck yeah. So many of my favorite comedians. They're so funny too. So many of my favorite comedians are Jewish. It's a Jewish thing, I guess, to be really funny. It probably ties into them having such a high IQ.
Right.
And of course, Schindler. Schindler's one of my heroes, and he saved over 1,000 Jews. So that's awesome. But you're right though. They really as a people they've done so. They're survivors. Like they've survived so much. It's like in their genes to be these survivors. It's awesome.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like the Native Americans, they're depressed. Here, you know what I mean? They're just they suicide. They're the highest suicide group of races on Earth because they just feel like there's no purpose, no meaning, no nothing. They are just super sad and depressed and just want to die. It's amazing, you know what I mean? And because they were pushed off their lands, the Jews don't even have a land really anymore. You know what I mean? They were pushed off of it as well, and they fight for it all the time. So,
right, yeah. And the Israel's into the idea of building the wall, so they have their own wall. So they're smart politically with how they protect their nation, right? So we need to copy them. Right? We need the wall to copy them. Let's see. What else do we got here? Let's see here. I think we answered. Looks like we might have gotten them all. Let's see here. How much time do we have before your friend?
Maybe 10 minutes or so, I believe.
10 minutes or so. Okay, let's see here. Van Halen says, I feel like this is getting racist. What the heck is racist about any of this stuff? We've not said anything racist. Let's see here.
We should. That would be clickbait.
Yeah, I know.
A Durian Rider would be.
Yeah, Durian Rider, right, exactly. Whatever happened to Durian Rider? He's just dropped off.
He moved to Chiang Mai. He moved out to Thailand and lives there and rides their bikes around in circles and still gets people to come to him, give him money. He's a horrible human being. There's people that make entire videos of him every single day now.
Really?
Every day. Every day there's a new post on him. Yeah. He's made so many enemies. It's crazy.
Yeah, and his ex-girlfriend, Freely, the banana girl, she's just a mess. Just I've seen some of her videos just attacking people anyone who's not vegan, you know. There's all these ex-vegans every day coming out on YouTube and they're saying, okay, the diet didn't work for me. I ran into this health problem. I ran into that health problem. I started eating whatever. And Freely makes these videos just ripping into them, judging them like they're the scum of the earth because they abandoned veganism. It's just like, come on.
Yeah, it's all justified in the name of veganism. That guy said black people are depressed because suicidal. We never said that. I said Native Americans are.
Yeah, you're not even getting what we're saying here. Let's see here. You guys got any more cool questions for us? Or I was going to say, if they didn't come up with enough questions, we could talk about. We could start talking about the stuff we're going to talk. Lyme disease. We could talk about. We don't have much time, but we can get in a little bit into. You know what? Let's talk about. Let's talk about how you would survive the pandemic plague. Let's say a pandemic plague, a viral plague was to come out tomorrow. What would you want in your arsenal of herbs, supplements to fight off the viral pandemic plague that many scientists predict could happen any day, really?
Well, the first thing you would want to do is pretty much isolate yourself as much as possible because most viral infections are airborne. And when things are airborne, they have a tendency to spread very, very easily, not through just contact, but through air, as you would imagine. So when people can touch things or sneeze and cough, obviously things can spread really, really quickly. So the first thing you want to do is you want to drop into a fast. You need to reach autophagy extremely quickly because your cells can protect themselves. However, viruses coming into the body, they'll now be able to, your body's immune system will be very, very high. The next thing you want to do is about 2 to 3 times a day, you want cold showers. What will happen is when you do hydrotherapy and you're very, very cold, the blood has a tendency to run from the extremities. It doesn't care about your fingers. It cares about your liver, your kidneys. It cares about your vital organs. And what happens is when your blood rushes to these extremities, they get purged very, very quickly and very rapidly. Because about 4 pounds of your blood are in your liver right now. It's pumping a lot of your blood. So blood gets purged extremely easily by these organs, and it'll pump them and it'll clean them. It'll raise glutathione levels extremely high. Cold water does that. And so you're naturally using your body to be its immune system. So then what you can do next is now you can anticipate that the virus is going to take effect. So you anticipate you're going to catch it regardless. The next best thing to do, I would say, would take apple cider vinegar and fill up and remove some of it. Pour about half of it out. Now I want you to go to your blender or juicer. It really doesn't matter which one you have. And I want you to run through it a bunch of cloves of garlic, a bunch of onion, a bunch of horseradish, or if you don't have horseradish, wasabi, whatever it may be. Add some cayenne pepper, add some charcoal. When you put these things in, they all have a different effect on what they do for the immune system, and they all affect you in a different area. You know, for example, some are in the sinus, like the horseradish. That'll kill any infection that comes into your sinus area. Onion is your stomach area. It'll kill infections that reach the gut and pass the mucosa. So essentially, by putting all those really powerful immunomodulating herbs and immunostimulating herbs into your body, you're making yourself a walking immune system. So now when anything comes into contact with you, even if it does somehow manage to pass almost all of those things, you've got activated charcoal there to absorb it and get rid of it. So you want to be able to identify a virus, because viruses have a tendency to not want to die. Matter of fact, that's why they take viruses and they remove the actual viral infection, and then they implement in things like DNA or genes into a virus and put them back into your body to make your eye color change and do things like that, because viruses will last forever. So the body, if it can't acclimate to that virus, you will get sick. So what happens is now we have the ability to knock out these viruses. So next, now that you have those things juice in there, add a bunch of colloidal silver. And this tincture tonic combination will never go rancid. It's already sitting in apple cider vinegar anyway, so it's already gone bad, so it's already a ferment. It's like alcohol, it can't go bad. Now you've added colloidal silver, so it definitely won't go bad. So now you have things that are antiviral, antimicrobial, anti-pandemic. So you're walking around, you're fasting, and you're drinking this stuff, you will not get sick. There's no way. And you're taking cold showers every night or every morning or twice. There'll be nothing that can knock you out, even if it's knocking everybody else out, because I personally don't get sick.
That's awesome. That tincture you're talking about reminds me of the Three Thieves, you know, in the Black Plague. The Three Thieves were using a tincture like similar to that. It was like vinegar and a bunch of like onions and ginger and stuff soaked in the vinegar. It reminds me of that, but it's like a special super version of it.
Exactly.
Now I would recommend, I've recommended people take NAC, like stock up on NAC for these like a viral pandemic, because that could boost your immune system like nothing else, because it boosts the glutathione, right, which is so important for the immune system.
Yeah, there's so many good strategies, but once you've got all those things working really high, you can just actually make that and just store it in your fridge or under the sink, and you've got it ready to go. And it's super cheap. Literally every ingredient that needs to go in there are pennies on the dollar, and that'll kill anything that tries to infect your body.
Wow. So anything else people can do? What as far as Chinese herbs to boost the immune system, like for if there was a pandemic viral thing, right? What would be that?
Well, you would take something like gynostemma, because it'll lower nuclear factor kappa B by quite a lot. It'll lower by 25%, and that right there will fight a lot of pathogens that might be in a unique form, because we don't know what'll come. So we want broad spectrum. If we knew for a fact, like, oh, this is going to be a viral infection that directly targets the respiratory system, then we can focus on that, but we can't. So we want, like you said, we want to be able to diversify and go around. So Chinese traditional medicine has a concept where they look at things in a superior class or tonic herb. And so they actually classify things based on how powerful they are, broad spectrum. Of course, they have things that are specific, like eye bright for the eyes. They have pau d'arco, which does a couple of different things. So they don't specifically target one aspect. So pau d'arco would be actually a pretty good one. So that. What
about breathing in some ozone gas or taking in some hydrogen peroxide internally? Those things are oxidizers. Those could be a bit extreme, though. What do you think?
Yeah, but if you've got it, you need to be extreme. But we're talking about once you've caught it. So these things you can start drinking that tonic while it's going around, so you don't catch it. Then we can resort to those last ones that can actually harm you.
And it might be a good idea to have a nebulizer, and so you can actually inhale nebulized silver, right? Micronized nebulized silver. Because let's say it's a lung. Let's say it's an airborne thing and it gets in your lung. The best thing ever is going to be a nebulized silver, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we got to remember too, we have to have backup other things as well. We need shoes. Shoes are vitally important if something goes wrong and you can't go to the store. People underestimate the power of shoes and just like nail clippers. What happens when you don't have nail clippers? How inconvenient it is when you get a toenail or an ingrown nail. It's growing into your skin for some rare reason, and you're out there with rocks, So I always say make a good list. It's called a bug out list. It's a list that you can have of everything in a backpack that just sits in your closet, and you hope that you never have to use it. And you can grab it and you can leave.
What do you think of the odds of like what's the most likely event that's just going to kill like a mass extinction event? Just not, well, maybe not an extinction event, but you know, this type of event that could just kill millions of people. You think it'd be most likely be a pandemic, or what kind of thing are you most preparing for when it comes to this thing that might kill you? You know,
Yosemite volcano going off, or coronal mass ejection from the sun. A coronal mass ejection big enough and long enough over a 24-hour period would set enough off so that there is no electricity left in the United States. There's so far only 2 reserve power generators large enough to power an entire city. One is in Texas, and the other is being built in New York. They take 15 years to make, and they take $50 million to produce. So there isn't going to be much power in the world if a coronal mass ejection hits. So it destroys the entire grid. And people rely on their electricity. They rely on their power for everything, from their lights to their toilet flushing to the AC and the heat in their house. So everybody who lives in a desert, probably dead. Everybody who lives in the cold regions of the world, probably dead, unless they can rely on their family, someone strong and fit that can go get wood to cut up, and they have a fireplace. You know, life's going to get so rough for the majority if a coronal mass ejection hits. There's instant death everywhere. You know, hospitals run on electricity, and when those go down, when electricity gets lost in a hospital, we know what happens. Life plummets ridiculous fast. So a CME would be one of the worst, and then super volcano would be the next, of course.
And that's why you don't want to have these, like, you know, a lot of these transhumanists, they're talking about wanting to replace their heart with like electrical hearts and different organs that are like robotic organs. And I'm like, well, that could be really dangerous. Like, what if there's something that sets off the, you know, like an EMP device, or even a natural one, like the coronal mass ejection. Is that what it's called? What is it called?
Yeah, CME, coronal mass ejection.
Okay, so that would mess up if someone had like a pacemaker or an electric heart or whatever. That would potentially totally be a disaster for that person, right?
Yeah, see, the last time one happened, there wasn't enough electricity. It happened at the turn of the century. So when it affected the world, it wasn't so bad. There was power. You know, when it went off, they were like, oh well. They were pretty self-sustainable back then. Now we're not. So now would be the really big problem. That's one of the hugest problems that there are. And since we're very many years late, see, a coronal mass ejection they predicted happens every about 75 years. So we're running late by a lot. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. It's kind of like a volcano. They incubate, they build pressure, and then they erupt. So we haven't really had any big ones. So it's just a matter of time till one of the super volcanoes goes off or a CME hits. We just hope that it's not going to be a 24-hour CME, because that's worldwide. Usually when CMEs go off, there are a couple minutes and you get a warning on your phone, you just power your stuff off and it hits, and it's not a big deal. They can sense it coming. They can see it. It takes eight seconds from light from the sun to get here. So I have 8 minutes from light from the sun to get to us. So there's plenty of time when they see a CME to warn everybody. But when they're large enough and big enough, they have to really be on it.
All right. Well, okay. So what time's your friend? That's probably about time, right, to contact him? Okay.
I think so. Yeah.
What's your friend's name again?
Standing for Truth.
All right. Okay, cool. I'll be talking with him. This has been a good hangout, you guys. Thank you guys for asking questions. We'll be doing more of these, with Matt, and get some Q&A going. And awesome. This was awesome. Thanks for Matt.
All right,
thanks, Matt.
Have a good time, Roen.
All right.
See you guys.
Bye-bye, guys.